Part 73. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 725. Wang Ling has heard this continuous siren more than once. Isn't it a sign that the super weapon device is completed? Sure enough, after hearing the sound, Wang Ling hurriedly looked at the electronic map and found a new countdown in the corner of the electronic map, the Iron Curtain device. The coalition super weapons fall into two categories, one is mainly offensive and the other is mainly auxiliary. The nuclear bomb attack that appeared before was a force attack type, and the Iron Curtain device just built now is an auxiliary type of the latter. Wang Ling still remembers the effectiveness of this Iron Curtain device. After it is ready, it can produce a black protective layer in a small area, which can protect buildings from being harmed by enemy troops, and can even protect the ground armored troops and take the opportunity to attack by force. And those shrouded by this Iron Curtain device, whether they are buildings or armored units, are in an invincible state and immune to any attack. If you operate it properly, you can even use a force to attack Huanglong and destroy the enemy's command post. Of course, after all, this effect is too powerful, and the energy consumed by the Iron Curtain device is also very terrifying. The black protective layer generated each time cannot last long. After the protective layer disappears, these armored troops will be directly exposed to under heavy enemy fire. Therefore, how to use this Iron Curtain device is also a technical task. In addition, because the energy field created by the Iron Curtain device is too powerful, only armored troops can withstand it, and infantry cannot withstand it at all. If you force it in, you will directly explode and die. Recalling this information, Wang Ling was very interested in this Iron Curtain device. He quickly moved the electronic video to the coalition headquarters and found this new Iron Curtain building inside the headquarters. The solid base, 4 huge tubes, and the huge black-red ball in the center all reveal the super deterrent power of the super weapon. Looking at this infrastructure makes people feel hard and heavy. With the successful completion of the Iron Curtain building, all the coalition super weapons in the Red Alert world have been completed. All that's left is to wait for the super weapons to be ready and released. However, after seeing the Iron Curtain building, Wang Ling was a little confused. The Allied forces valued super weapons more than the coalition forces. They even built a weather control device several days in advance and took the lead in releasing the lightning storm, a super attack-like weapon. However, now that the Allied forces have caught up from behind and have built the Iron Curtain, what are the Allied forces doing? Why have the second type of auxiliary super weapons not been built yet? In fact, the high-level leaders of the Allied forces had hesitated and debated this issue for a long time as Wang Ling considered it. What to argue about? Naturally, there is a question of whether it is necessary to step up construction. Like the Allied super weapons, the Allied super weapons are also divided into two categories, offensive and auxiliary. The offensive type is lightning storm, and the other auxiliary type is time and space teleportation. This time and space teleportation is different from ordinary time and space legionnaires. It can teleport a group of armored troops over a wide range and instantly reach any place within the electronic map. It does not have any freezing time, is flexible and is very suitable for surprise attacks. In the game, the Allies use this kind of super weapon to move their own assault armored units into the enemy's base in an instant, catching the enemy by surprise. In the world of Red Alert, the top leaders of the Allied forces naturally retain this kind of inertial thinking, so they are entangled. If it were to be a battle with the coalition forces during the battle for hegemony, the chronospace teleporter would naturally have to be built quickly, but what we were dealing with now was the Yuri base of the Seoul Empire. Every time you launch a strong attack, you have to be careful. If a group of armored troops are teleported into Yuri base, wouldn't they be mind-controlled every minute and send funds and combat power to Yuri base in vain? To be honest, the efficiency of the Allied forces was not as good as that of the Allied forces. Because of this concern, we debated for several days before making the decision to continue construction. However, a lot of time has been wasted in the past few days. The Coalition's Iron Curtain device has been completed, but their hyper-time teleporter is still under construction. Wang Ling didn't know this, but after muttering, he didn't bother to pay attention to the affairs of the Allies. Originally, he was still hesitating whether to lead a force to attack before General Li Wiki and others arrived, but after seeing the Iron Curtain device, he cancelled this plan. Since there is no strong attack and Yuri base is focusing on defense, then, the originally turbulent coastal theater has become strangely quiet. Of course, this quietness is only relative. After all, the coastal theater is close to the sea, and there is also a Yuri base built on the seaside, and even a Yuri shipyard has been built. The Empire of Mind has very few types of navy, with only one type of thunder submarine. However, the threat of this submarine is indeed not small. In the past few days, it has launched several naval battles against General Luo Er's base intermittently, and each time 5, 6, or even 7 or 8 thunder submarines were dispatched. At the beginning, General Luo Er sent corresponding coalition submarines to stop the attack. However, the Thunder submarine was able to launch double the torpedo bombardment at one time, and its underwater combat effectiveness was nearly twice as powerful as that of the coalition submarines. During the collision, the coalition submarines were almost completely suppressed, and in the end they won by numbers. The most dangerous time was when a total of 8 Thunder submarines invaded, sinking all the naval forces under General Luo Er, bombing the docks, hiding in the sea and firing missiles at ground buildings and troops. Fortunately, the air defense force of the coalition base is very powerful and efficient. All these fast missiles were intercepted by anti-aircraft guns, and none of them could fall. After intercepting the submarine for a period of time, Agent Tanya became impatient and sent her SEAL team to sneak into the sea. When the Thunder submarine launched missiles and had no time to counterattack the SEAL team, they got close enough to blow them up and sink them all. This battle gave General Luo Er some inspiration, and he quickly built a shipyard, quickly produced submarines, trained giant squids, and dispatched some SEALs to cooperate in the battle. With this combination, Yuri's navy was finally contained. All subsequent invading Thunder submarines were attracted by the coalition submarines and then handed over to the SEALs to blow up and sink them. Of course, compared to the war situation in the entire theater, this kind of battle is just a local small-scale battle. At best, it only consumes the troops and combat funds of both sides. It cannot determine the outcome of the war at all. Wang Ling did not go there much. No matter what. During this period, the second batch of reinforcements from the Eastern Plains Theater also arrived early, but they did not play much role in catching up with Yuri base to avoid the battle and defend themselves. After several days, outside the Binhai war zone, General Li Wiki's base vehicle, as well as Wang Ling's base vehicle and Tanya Agent's base vehicle finally arrived at the Binhai war zone one after another. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 726. When the base vehicle arrives, it is naturally followed by large troop members from the corresponding bases, escorting the base vehicle like stars over the moon. From these two bases, 3 base vehicles, and densely packed soldiers and tanks, it is inevitable that several base vehicles will move in together. Very spectacular. After seeing this group of reinforcements, many guards in General Luo Er's base became happy. Although the arrival of agents Wang Ling and Tanya instantly turned the tide of the battle, making this coalition base now strong enough to compete with the 3 major Yuri bases. However, the apparent difference between the numbers was so large that a group of guards were inevitably a little worried. Now, a large number of reinforcements have arrived, and the last worry in their hearts has been eliminated in an instant. Correspondingly, it is the Yuri base. After several days of recovery, they each mobilized a large number of infantry units from their barracks, and built a number of armored units of various types to supplement the losses in these days of war, accumulate strong combat power, and even plan to the attack began again. However, the arrival of this large number of reinforcements has made the three Yuri bases a little nervous. The current guard strength in the coastal theater has already given them a headache, let alone such a large number of reinforcements coming. In annoyance, there were two large Yuri bases close by, and they temporarily dispatched two groups of attack troops, trying to harass and consume them while the reinforcements were not in place. Although it is a temporary force, there are still hundreds of infantrymen of various types, more than 20 tanks and more than a dozen laser UFOs. To be honest, with the total strength of the two bases, it is not difficult to resist this group of temporary troops. However, after all, the two major bases are not in place and the foundation is unstable. The entire army has been migrating for so long and is tired of traveling and traveling. If they are suddenly attacked, there will inevitably be heavy casualties. This was not what Wang Ling wanted to see. He noticed the enemy's movements and quickly dispatched more than 30 soldiers on anti-aircraft tracked vehicles for emergency support. Back then, he and Agent Tanya, as the vanguard, started causing trouble as soon as they arrived in the coastal theater. But now, when the large forces arrived, they couldn't just get into trouble as soon as they arrived. If word spread, it would be a lot of fun. Due to the direction of the incoming reinforcements, the large forces entering the coastal theater were actually closer to the two Yuri bases. It was convenient for these two Yuri bases to send troops to intercept them. Not long after marching, the laser UFO troops ran into them. The coalition troops at the front began to shoot and kill indiscriminately. Swish swish swish. Swish swish swish. The combined attack power of more than a dozen laser UFOs was not bad. Under the collective fire, many conscripts were immediately killed, including a Rhino tank. The reaction of the coalition forces on the way was a little slower. It was not until their own troops were attacked for a while that they hurriedly dispatched almost all the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles in the team, a total of more than 20 vehicles, to concentrate fire and artillery fire. For a moment, boom, the sound of dong-dong cannons was heard endlessly, mixed with the laser light of the laser UFO, and the collision between the two sides was very fierce. Although Wang Ling took away most of the anti-aircraft crawlers in the base in order to rush for help, there were also many elites among the remaining anti-aircraft crawlers, defending with nearly twice the number of laser UFOs. This battle collapsed. There was no difficulty at all. In the end, at the cost of the death of nearly 20 soldiers, the laser UFO was completely destroyed. Although the laser UFO failed to kill too many coalition troops, the harassment also interrupted the migration rhythm of the coalition forces, and they had to pause to prepare for the follow-up armored troops and even infantry troops. However, before the tornado tanks and getter tanks could get closer, Wang Ling had already relied on the rapidity of the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle to arrive one step ahead. More than 30 soldiers quickly got out of the car and advanced to the front line. After all of them were in place, the tank units from the two Yuri bases happened to be approaching, so Wang Ling went straight into the battle without even saying hello to these old subordinates. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Boom. Boom. Click. In this battle, there was no fire support from armed helicopters, but Wang Ling's personal firepower alone was enough to suppress the two groups of tank troops. The rate of fire was as fast as a Gatling gun, and it fired blazing bullets non-stop, hitting everyone who came close. The Get tanks almost exploded in just one breath. After getting rid of these Get tanks, which were more lethal to infantry, Wang Ling immediately aimed at the remaining tornado tanks. Under the super firepower coverage, more than a dozen tornado tanks also burst into flames. Occasionally one or two a car that was lucky enough to slip through the net barely managed to get close, but was killed by 3 magnetic explosive infantrymen, Sun Dehua, Erlu, and Chen Tong. The two groups of tank troops were completely destroyed without even being able to fire a single shot. After annihilating this group of tanks, the remaining two groups of infantry teams were even simpler. Wang Ling didn't even bother to wait for them to approach. He single-handedly killed them on an anti-aircraft tracked vehicle, approaching the infantry group. When you get out of the car, take the lead in killing the virus snipers in the team, and then directly transform into a SEAL team, one person, harvesting the entire infantry team. Wang Ling was able to easily kill these enemy troops, but Wang Ling didn't find it novel at all. He didn't even stop for a moment. He turned around and got into the anti-aircraft tracked vehicle and joined the large army. Team leader. After successfully reuniting, the entire Wolf Group army saluted Wang Ling, full of momentum and roaring loudly. Wang Ling glanced at the group of people and nodded with satisfaction. This momentum is not bad. This is not a place to reminisce about the past, let's move on. Yes. A group of people responded, and then continued to escort the base vehicle towards the designated location. While Wang Ling was annihilating the enemy, the large Allied forces had caught up from behind. However, this group of people didn't appreciate it very much. They passed by the Allied forces and advanced directly without paying much attention to Wang Ling. There was basically no one he knew in this group of Allied troops. Wang Ling was not surprised by this indifferent attitude. He just sneered, then got into the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle and escorted the base vehicle along the road to General Luo Er's base. A command post was spread out on a seaside. Following the old rules, Wang Ling summoned all the teams from General Luo Er's base, and took along Chen Tong and other team leaders and captains to report the situation to General Li Wiki. After exiting, the base began to rebuild quickly. General Li Wiki and General Luo Er have known each other for a long time, but now, General Li Wiki didn't care about reminiscing with General Luo Er. He just joked a few words over the radio and threw himself into the intense construction. Not only him, but also the Allied forces. Agent Tanya was tired of the position of commander, but before the new commander arrived, she took up the temporary position and commanded many engineers to quickly rebuild the base. They couldn't help but be in a hurry. Now in the red alert world, the era of super weapons has arrived. The countdown time for the two super weapons of the Soul Empire is not too long now. They must take advantage of this time to deal with it, otherwise it's going to be a disaster. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 727. In terms of pure conventional combat effectiveness, Wang Ling is now powerful enough to intimidate the entire Mind Empire, let alone a Tanya agent in the coastal theater. With these two heroic units united together, few Yuri bases can resist. However, no matter how powerful Wang Ling is, he still has to worry about the super weapons of the Soul Empire, especially the genetic mutations. This kind of super weapon targets all infantry units without distinction. Even if it is as powerful as Wang Ling, it is shrouded in genetic mutation and there is no guarantee that it will not be affected. There is no way. This is the threat of super weapons. In the era of super weapons, the original combat methods have to make corresponding changes to adapt to this era. The preparation time of super weapons is also different. The preparation time of this gene mutation is shorter than that of Psychic Storm and Lightning Storm and other offensive super weapons, and the frequency of normal release is also higher. At present, it also has the shortest countdown time among all super weapons. This is also the main threat that coalition forces and allied bases in various theaters currently deal with. Under this threat, the reconstruction efficiency of the two major bases in the coastal theater was extremely high. In less than a day, major functional buildings were built one after another. After the technology of the crack generator was unlocked, Tanya the agent urgently ordered many engineers to build it on a large scale. Of course, the coalition forces were not idle either. During the reconstruction process, General Lewicki actually thought of a tricky way to deal with genetic mutations, which was to build combat bunkers on a large scale under the crack generator. Yes, a combat bunker is a defensive building that requires soldiers to be stationed inside in order to exert its combat effectiveness. During the period of being stationed, with the protection of the combat bunker, the soldiers inside are almost immune to any harm or influence unless the defensive building is killed first. Only by exposing the soldiers. The gene mutation of the Soul Empire is aimed at infantry. It has absolute suppression and mutation capabilities for infantry, but has no harm or impact on buildings. If all soldiers within the scope of the gene mutation stay in the battle bunker, here, this threatening superweapon can only be stared at. To take a step back, even if the targeted construction is completed and the genetic mutation does not target this place, the group of combat bunkers will not be wasted. When encountering an enemy attack, many soldiers can advance, attack, retreat or defend. If it is not possible, return it can be disassembled and turned into combat funds. In short, there are many benefits. Strangely enough, after this idea appeared, General Lewicki did not report it to the headquarters immediately. Instead, he called Wang Ling, told him the idea, and asked for his opinion. Haha, General, this is a great idea. It's so good. Why didn't I think of it before? After hearing this, Wang Ling's eyes lit up and he clapped his hands. He was also worried about how to avoid and protect his subordinates if the gene mutation really came. Unexpectedly, General Lewicki came up with this idea when he was sleeping. It is true that Wang Ling is a player, but he has never tried this kind of cool operation in the game. Now that Wang Ling had praised it, General Lewicki felt confident. On the one hand, he ordered the engineers to build a large number of combat bunkers. On the other hand, he also reported the suggestion to the headquarters. As a result, after receiving the news, the headquarters was also like a dream. Fang Xing, PoortoRich even gave General Lewicki a special credit for this, and then quickly notified this method to all coalition bases in all theaters. All that's left is to follow this method and quickly build a combat bunker. Here, the value of the two command posts is reflected. In order to build efficiently, Wang Ling even returned to his command post, used his identity as temporary commander, and ordered the engineers to build a large number of combat bunkers to cooperate with General Lewicki's command. The efficiency of the engineering troops is nearly twice as high as that of General Luoyer's base. Hey, Wang Ling, don't forget about us. I'll help you build the crack generator. Remember to build a batch of your battle bunkers for us too. During the construction period, Agent Tanya also noticed the actions of the coalition forces. With her intelligence, she quickly realized what the coalition forces were thinking. Unconvinced, she directly contacted Wang Ling via radio. Wang Ling smiled playfully, "Tanya, you can trust us so much. We control the battle bunker. What if your allied soldiers enter and I order an attack on your own building? In the game, soldiers from different bases cannot enter the battle bunkers at different bases, otherwise they will be easily confused, just like what Wang Ling said." However, Agent Tanya seemed to be indifferent. "Tch, if you can't trust me, why should I look for you? To be honest, I don't trust your coalition forces, I trust you. Ha! You and I have a grudge against you because of your instructor, right? With your current strength, you can actually kill me at will. But the fact that you didn't do this proves that you are measured. At least the threat of the Soul Empire is still there. When you are here, you are absolutely trustworthy." "Hey, I'm really flattered by your evaluation," Wang Ling smiled bitterly. "Okay, since you trust me so much, I can't let you down. Our own base is almost complete. I will help you build it as soon as possible." "Okay." The radio was cut off. Wang Ling looked in the direction of the allied base and laughed dumbly. "This little bitch actually trusts me so much. Is she really not afraid that I will cheat on her? He is now in the temporary command post, and both Li Tong and Gu Suanwu heard the whole conversation with Agent Tanya. Now Li Tong is encouraging, team leader, how about we try to trick her, try. Stop joking, Wang Ling's face froze, and then he stared back. As a result, Gu Suanwu smiled and said, look, team leader, no wonder people trust you, you are really worthy of trust. Li Tong immediately added the blow, I guess, even if the team leader really cheated on her, she would still be willing to do so. Wang Ling was speechless and simply stopped answering the question. The construction work is still being carried out rapidly. Not only the Coastal Theater, but other theaters also felt like they had found a treasure after getting this method, and they immediately started construction. This is not afraid of 10,000, but afraid of the worst. No one can tell whose home the gene mutation will visit, and which base must be on guard. In the midst of such rapid construction, the gene mutation of the spiritual empire was not yet ready, but a series of alarms suddenly sounded from the electronic map. Hearing this voice, Wang Ling couldn't help but feel a little curious, and quickly checked the electronic map. As a result, in the corner of the electronic map, on the countdown of the super weapon, there was a new item, time and space teleportation. Different dimension red alert world. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 728. After such a long delay, the Allies' second type of auxiliary super weapon, the chronospace teleporter, was finally completed. Tisk, tisk, what the hell are the Allies doing? The Iron Curtain device has been built for so many days, and it can be used only in a few days. How could this most interesting time-space teleporter be built? Isn't it? You know the goods, but you don't know how to use them. After seeing the countdown to this new super weapon, Wang Ling stayed in the temporary command post and began to sarcastically mock him. Yes, the function of this temporal teleporter was somewhat useless in the eyes of the Allies, but Wang Ling was very optimistic about this thing. As for the Allies, according to the inertia of the game, they will only assemble the armored forces in advance, and then launch time and space teleportation to the enemy base to forcibly attack. However, if Wang Ling could control this thing, it would be a lot of fun. Time and space teleportation can teleport not only your own troops, but also enemy troops, and it can be teleported unscrupulously. As long as it is an area that can be marked on the electronic map, you can teleport to wherever you want. You can go anywhere, including the sea. For example, if the Yuri base dispatches heavy troops and plans to attack by force, when the armored forces are gathering, it will suddenly activate time and space teleportation to teleport the mind-controlled vehicles and magneto-electric tanks in an area directly to the sea. Such a powerful weapon that can destroy Yuri's base in an instant, every time it is operated like this, it is absolutely enjoyable. If there is no ocean in the war zone, it doesn't matter. You can deploy heavy troops behind your base in advance and lay ambush. After preparations are completed, the enemy target will be trapped in a trap through time and space teleportation. By then, you will die even if you don't want to. Disaster. This is just armored troops. If used against infantry, it would actually be even more annoying. Like the coalition super weapon Iron Curtain device, infantry cannot enjoy this treatment. During time and space teleportation, the energy generated in an instant creates a space distortion force that is too powerful for the human body to bear. If the infantry is in the area of time and space teleportation, the powerful space distortion force can be achieved in an instant. Kill all the infantry. Chrono Legion soldiers can move across time and space at will, but they are also assisted by specialized equipment, and each time they move through time and space, they have different stiffness times depending on the distance. This shows that this time and space movement has a negative impact on infantry. The restrictions are huge. With this restriction, if the enemy has assembled a large number of infantry, but a time and space teleportation area appears inexplicably, and then a large number of infantry die in an instant. I am afraid that whoever this will fall on will have to be anxious. Bar. Of course, this is only part of the magical effects of time and space teleportation. In the Red Alert world now, the Allied forces are temporarily united with the coalition forces. If both parties use this time and space teleportation together, it will be even more fun. Hey hey. Thinking of these strategies, Wang Ling couldn't help but feel happy. As a result, when Li Tong saw it, he had a look of contempt on his face. Why is the team leader smiling so stupidly? It seems like he has some evil intentions. Gu Suanwei replied, you still need to ask. Based on my understanding of the team leader, he must have had some bad idea. I just don't know how he wants to harm people this time. Am I this kind of person? After hearing this, Wang Ling was very embarrassed. His old face turned red and he turned around to scold him. Li Tong and Gu Suanwei didn't answer, they just looked at him with disdain, which made him lose his temper. In the end, he could only cough in a pretentious manner and forcefully change the topic. After all, the countdown to time and space teleport had just appeared, and it would take quite a while to prepare. Wang Ling temporarily suppressed those interesting thoughts and got to work now. There is only more than half a day left for the gene mutation, the super weapon of the Mind Empire, to be ready. This time is not considered rich. Fortunately, the two major bases of Wang Ling and General Li Wiki were launched together. Before the gene mutation was ready, it was enough to build a large number of combat bunkers to ensure the safety of all infantry. However, time was very precious now, so Wang Ling temporarily stopped the construction of his own base, and instead dispatched all engineering troops to the Allied base to start building combat bunkers. As for his own base, Wang Ling directly ordered the tank factory to produce more anti-aircraft tracked vehicles. During these days, General Li Wiki's command post has been funding the construction, while Wang Ling's command post has been hoarding funds. The hoarding is now a considerable amount of wealth, enough to support these temporary squanderings. Why build an anti-aircraft crawler vehicle? Naturally, they would carry their own infantry. This is also inspired by General Li Wiki's suggestion. Gene mutation needs to act directly on the infantry and has no effect on armored arms. In this case, stuffing all the infantry into air defense tracked vehicles will have the same effect. The same goes for battle bunkers. The freed time can also be used to help the Allies. Half a day was not long. A group of engineers seized the time and built about 15 or 6 combat bunkers at the Allied base. This number can only carry dozens of Allied soldiers, which can only account for a small part of the total number of soldiers in the Allied base. But there was nothing that could be done about it. This was the result of Wang Ling trying his best to help. Agent Tanya didn't say anything wrong. He temporarily stationed many elite soldiers in and took the lead in protecting these combat forces. As for the rest, it can only depend on God's will. Nowadays, all major war zones, including General Luo Er's base, are still urgently building combat bunkers. However, Wang Ling has packed all the remaining infantry into anti-aircraft tracked vehicles, and the entire base can be seen. There was no sign of a soldier, so preparations were sufficient. After all preparations were completed, the countdown to gene mutation finally ended. According to the past usage habits of the Mind Empire, gene mutation is rarely used alone when a suitable opportunity is not seized. However, there are always exceptions. After the gene mutation was ready, Wang Ling was in the command post when he suddenly heard a buzzing sound. He hurriedly checked the electronic map, but found nothing unusual. Wang Ling, who was familiar with the various technologies of Yuri base, immediately realized, "Good guy, are you targeting us? Just when you were ready, you used mind detection to spy on the appearance of our base. Hee, I'm sorry, you have to return empty-handed. Got it? Isn't it?" The buzzing sound just now was not the sound of genetic mutation being released, but a sign of the use of mine detection in Yuri base. Wang Ling could hear it, which means that the place where the mine detection was used happened to be this base. In normal times, no matter how loosely divided the soldiers are, with the help of psychic detection, some infantry can always be found and the genetic mutations can be cast. But now, there is not even a single infantryman in the entire base. Where can he put his genetic mutation? Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 729. Although the super weapon of the Mind Empire, gene mutation has no direct attack capability, it can transform all infantry in a large area into wild orcs. When used properly, this influence is even more terrifying than Psychic Storm. However, the prerequisite is that there are enough infantry to threaten the enemy base. But now, not a single infantry is found in the target base. How can this make the gene mutation who is ready to attack feel embarrassed? The Mind Empire is obviously aware of the threat from General Li Wiki's base. After the gene mutation is ready, it will directly launch a mine detection on the base. However, the scene detected is like a punch on cotton. I am afraid it will be very difficult now. Frustrated. The preparation time for genetic mutation is shorter than that for Psychic Storm, but no matter how short it is, there is still 5 or 6 days, and the Empire of Mind cannot afford to waste it. Since this base did not have any targets, the Empire of the Mind simply did not release the gene mutation. After the crack generator refilled the electronic map that had been forcibly explored, the Empire of the Mind simply placed its targets in other war zones. After all, mind detection also requires a certain amount of preparation time, and during this period, the Mind Empire can no longer rely on this technology and can only randomly search for targets in various war zones. However, all bases in all major war zones are now taking precautions against the super weapon. Even major coalition bases have built large-scale battle bunkers. For a while, the Empire of the Mind was having difficulty finding suitable targets. This situation is somewhat similar to the previous ones. Obviously, the preparation time for gene mutation is shorter than that of Psychic Storm, but several times in a row, these two super weapons have been put together. In the final analysis, they still cannot be found. Suitable target. This time, Wang Ling originally thought it would be the same as before, but unexpectedly, not long after this idea appeared, the countdown of the gene mutation in the electronic map returned to more than 5 days, and it had obviously been released. Huh? Where did you put it? Seeing this, Wang Ling was curious and shocked at the same time. He quickly checked the situation in other war zones from the electronic map. Not long after, he found a large number of wild orcs in the coalition base in a war zone. This coalition base obviously lacks the number of combat bunkers, and the anti-aircraft crawlers are not used. After the gene mutation is ready, there are still many infantry deployed outside. At this time, Yuri base sent troops to attack. With the help of this convenience, we were able to explore this group of infantrymen, and this is how we saw the scene on the electronic map. However, after all, this base has already taken precautions. The original infantry density was very low, not to mention that there are still a large number of infantry stationed in the battle bunker. The number of wild orcs mutated by the Soul Empire this time is only about 50 or 60. Compared with the number of infantry in the entire base, they can only be regarded as a small part. And this small group of wild orcs were a little unlucky. A large number of battle bunkers around them opened fire. Not long after the transformation, a group of wild orcs were annihilated by these battle bunkers before they even had time to hit them with a few punches. The situation of the remaining Yuri armored troops was not much better. The armed helicopters did not stay in this area, but there were a lot of battle bunkers and magnetic storm coils here. After killing the wild orcs first, they concentrated their fire to bombard them. A group of armored troops were successfully annihilated shortly after the fierce battle. The advantage of large-scale construction of combat bunkers has been reflected here. It not only protects one's own infantry, but also defends against enemy attacks. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone. As the era of super weapons has developed to this point, the coalition and allied forces have already had a lot of experience in dealing with the super weapons of the Mind Empire. The emergence of this gene mutation will affect the coalition base currently under attack. The damage was not serious, and most of the combat effectiveness was preserved. Overall, it was able to survive the disaster safely. After Wang Ling looked at it, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Now, the countdown to gene mutation has begun again, and this threat can be put aside for the time being. However, then it was the Mind Empire's turn to worry, because the next super weapon that was about to be ready was the Allied lightning storm. The power of the super weapon is still fresh in the memory of the Mind Empire. For this reason, Yuri bases in various war zones have also had to take corresponding preventive measures. They do not have the Allied crack generators. Under the detection of the Allied spy satellites, the appearance of the entire base was unreservedly exposed on the Allied electronic map. There was nowhere to hide, so they could only reduce the density of soldiers as much as possible. Hey, Wang Ling. The genetic mutation was over, and seeing the lightning storm approaching, Wang Ling originally wanted to go out for a walk, but at this time, Agent Tanya suddenly contacted him via radio. Wang Ling was puzzled and asked, "What's wrong?" Agent Tanya replied, "Lightning storm is almost ready. General Bob has given me the positioning authority again. Can you help me advise, which of these three Yuri bases should we destroy?" Good guy, Tanya actually asked Wang Ling to help with this kind of secret. Wang Ling was a little surprised at this, but he did not show it. Instead, he joked playfully, "Such a powerful super weapon. I have given you the right to position it twice in a row. It seems that you are in General Bob's heart. The status is high enough." "That's it, don't you see who I am?" Agent Tanya became proud, but then she returned to the topic, "Don't interrupt, tell me what you think." Wang Ling was amused after hearing this. "You'd better hand over the positioning rights of Lightning Storm. We won't need it here. We have time and space teleportation and Iron Curtain device, which is enough." "That's right. What's the use of chrono teleportation? How can it replace Lightning Storm?" Agent Tanya was confused. Wang Ling smiled, "It's very useful, especially when our two armies cooperate. It can't be worse than the Lightning Storm." Later, Wang Ling selectively told Agent Tanya his bad ideas through the radio. Wang Ling was originally struggling with how to tell the Allied forces about those bad ideas. Agent Tanya came to find him here, and happened to use her mouth to tell these ideas to the Allied forces' senior officials, which also saved him a lot of trouble. Of course, they are allies after all, so Wang Ling will not be completely at ease with them. The bad idea only talks about what the two armies need to cooperate with. As for how the allies can use time and space teleportation alone, Wang Ling will not be so kind. Tell them. Even so, Agent Tanya's eyes lit up after hearing this, and she even responded on the spot, "Oh my God, Wang Ling, why are you so wicked? Yuri is really down when he meets such a wicked guy like you. 8 lifetimes of bloody mold." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 730. This was not the first time that similar comments had appeared, but Agent Tanya's words left Wang Ling speechless. After a while, he asked, "Are you praising me or scolding me? Guess for yourself." "Okay, no more words, I will report this idea to General Bob quickly. Yuri base will suffer from it in the future." Agent Tanya said her last words and immediately interrupted the communication without waiting for Wang Ling to reply. Team leader, is this the bad idea you thought of before? Agent Tanya reluctantly stopped. However, Li Tong and Gu Suanwu also heard Wang Ling's words, and now they also looked gloating. Became sarcastic, let me just say it, the team leader must have thought of some bad idea and wants to blame others. Haha, this idea is indeed wicked. Wang Ling patted his forehead and looked helpless. Why are you so immoral? This is called tactics, tactics, do you understand? Yes, tactics. This is a good tactic. Haha, but it still feels a little unethical. Wang Ling really had nothing to say to these two people. No matter how they evaluated it, when Agent Tanya reported this tactic to the superiors, Wang Ling also went directly to General Li Weiqi's command post to tell him this idea. Got him. After General Li Weiqi heard this, the expression on his face was particularly exciting for a while, and he also made similar comments, which made Wang Ling quite speechless. With this tactic as the premise, there is no need to hand over the positioning rights to them for the nuclear bomb attack for the time being. General Li Weiqi quickly reported to PoortoRich. This tactic can also be said to be a bad idea. Wang Ling has already announced it, and he has no control over the rest. For now, he can only wait with peace of mind, and at the same time be on guard against the other major super weapon of the Mind Empire, Psychic Storm. General Bob had no reason to reject Wang Ling's idea. After waiting for nearly a day, the lightning storm was prepared. This time, he did not invest in this coastal war zone, but notified another one in advance. The Allied and coalition bases in the war zone prepared heavy troops. Then rolling thunder clouds were seen over a Yuri base in the war zone, and thunder fell, destroying the entire Yuri base unscrupulously. Wang Ling and others were also watching this process on the electronic video. Although this was not the first time they watched lightning storm, they were still a little shocked deep in their hearts. Click. 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 The super powerful lightning never failed. Every time it fell, it would cause great damage to Yuri's base. Many soldiers died tragically, tanks exploded one after another, and even a large number of buildings were demolished. This continues after more than 10 seconds, the terrifying lightning storm finally ended. After all, it is an offensive super weapon. This round of lightning storm caused quite serious damage to the Yuri base. After the end, the entire base was covered with debris, and there were remaining buildings on fire everywhere. However, Yuri base looks miserable. In fact, they have tried their best to reduce the density of troops in advance. The number of infantry tanks killed in this lightning storm is far less than when it was first released, but the damage to the buildings everywhere, the damage is real. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the coalition and allied forces, which had been prepared in advance, quickly launched an offensive, adding insult to injury and killing you while you were sick. After the disaster, the defense strength of Yuri base was indeed not as good as before. As a result, under this joint attack, the entire base was rapidly collapsing, and even the command post was quickly destroyed. But after all, it was still Yuri base. The defense force was too strong. In addition, after the collapse of the command post, the two armies were obviously eager for quick success and accelerated the attack rhythm. As a result, they were destroyed by 3 mind control vehicles and a group of troops were sent in. Troop recycling bin. The war ended here. In this battle, almost half of the Yuri base was destroyed, and even the command post was bombed. However, after all, the lightning storm bombarded first, and then the two major forces joined forces to attack behind. In the end, they still failed to destroy the Yuri base, which shows how strong the defense power of the Yuri base is. Hey, what a pity. If we could fight steadily, we might be able to win this battle. Wang Ling felt a little regretful after seeing the entire battle process on the electronic map. Agent Tanya was so angry that she stamped her feet. Are these troops useless? Lightning storm helped them clear the way, but they haven't captured a Yuri base yet. Isn't this a waste of super weapons? These two people really can stand and talk without pain in their backs. However, the two of them are indeed qualified to say this. As heroic units of the two armies, even if there is no super weapon to open the way and lead the team to attack, as long as they attack steadily, they are sure to overthrow a base. He often does this kind of thing. However, without the firepower of the two of them, it would actually be quite difficult for the coalition and allied forces to deal with Yuri's base. No matter what, this battle is over. Although the Yuri base has not been completely destroyed, at least their effective forces have been destroyed. The command post has been destroyed, and the commander has been killed. Without reinforcements, previously, the coalition and allied forces in the corresponding theaters focused on targeting, and there was still a high hope that they could kill this Yuri base. For this reason, Wang Ling stopped paying attention there. That night, an allied helicopter suddenly arrived at the coastal theater and arrived at the allied base. Under the escort of 2 SEALs and 2 allied soldiers, a lieutenant general stepped down and came to replace Agent Tanya. A commander. Agent Tanya was tired of being in this position for a long time. When she saw the new commander, she unceremoniously dumped the burden on him, but the commander was inevitably a little bit dumbfounded. Although he was a commander in name, in fact, this allied lieutenant general just helped Agent Tanya manage the base. Although Agent Tanya is not as good as him in military rank, as an allied hero and a favorite in General Bob's eyes, her status is actually no worse than him. She doesn't have to obey his orders at all. She even does some things. You can step in and give orders on behalf of the lieutenant general. Although this situation is a bit funny, within the coalition forces, Wang Ling is actually in the same situation, but he maintains enough respect for General Li Wiki and will not be so harsh. After the handover of positions is completed, the daily life in the coastal theater continues. In the following time, the coastal theater was considered stable. Yuri base only conducted a large-scale attack once, and after the failure, it turned to defense. Not long after, the Psychic Empire's super weapon Psychic Storm was ready, which aroused vigilance in all war zones. Wang Ling had to deal with it carefully and spread out the troops under the crack generator as much as possible. However, this Psychic Storm did not fall on the coastal theater. Instead, it landed on the theater that had been ravaged by the lightning storm before. It visited the Allied base, as if it was deliberately retaliating. The response to the Allied base was also rigorous, with a large number of troops dispersed. Although many buildings were scrapped, the guard force did not lose much, and the controlled troops were extinguished in time without any danger. After overcoming this difficulty, all war zones can finally breathe a sigh of relief. While relaxing, the coalition's super weapon Iron Curtain device finally completed the preparation stage. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 731. In the era of super weapons, various super weapons from the 3 major forces are frequently ready to appear, making this already cruel battlefield more and more turbulent, changing the way of war, and accelerating the process of war. Watching the countdown to the Iron Curtain device on the electronic map end, Wang Ling smiled with amusement. This type of super weapon acts on armored troops and makes them immune to all attacks for about 45 seconds. In the game, when the coalition forces use this type of super weapon, they like to use 4 Apocalypse tanks, covering them with the Iron Curtain device, and then take the opportunity to attack. However, the effect is always somewhat unsatisfactory. Although the Apocalypse tank has powerful attack power, its speed is too slow. It is often unable to kill all the enemy's productivity buildings before the Iron Curtain device fails. At best, it only causes extensive damage. This makes this type of super weapon somewhat useless. Wang Ling usually does this when playing games, but under his command, the Apocalypse tanks ignored the other defenders at all and went straight to Huanglong to kill the command post. This was victory. They bombed when they had some remaining strength. The tank factory, as long as these two buildings are destroyed, half of the entire base will be disabled. If used in conjunction with a nuclear bomb attack, it can kill an entire base at once, and it has proven successful time and time again. However, at this moment, there are too many war zones, and other war zones need the assistance of nuclear bomb attacks more. And the forces in Wang Ling's base happen to have a very special type of military force. This made Wang Ling think of what he had done before. The tactics I mentioned before. The Iron Curtain device was completed, and the right to use it had been handed over to Wang Ling. However, Wang Ling did not use it immediately. Instead, he looked at the countdown of the Allied forces' time and space teleportation and groaned, "Set it aside to dry." He wants to use it together with chrono teleportation. If you want to play, let's play a big one. Of course, during this period, Wang Ling cannot be idle, and preparation work still needs to be done. He directly ordered the tank factory to manufacture about 15 self-destruction trucks, and stipulated that the production must be completed before time and space teleportation. General Li Wiki was actually very resistant to this self-destructing truck, and rarely manufactured and used it in combat. But now that Wang Ling's tactics, self-destructing trucks are the absolute main force, General Li Wiki had no choice but to agree to the production. Buzz. 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 In the next 2 days, the coalition tank factory was almost busy working overtime. Every once in a while, a self-destructing truck would be driven out and parked aside. Finally, in the half-day before the time and space teleportation, all manufacturing is complete. After all the self-destruction trucks were in place, Wang Ling directly dispatched 9 of them to the Allied base. In the Allied base, many of the guards had obviously seen the horror of this thing, and they were subconsciously nervous. They seemed to be afraid that the group of self-destructing trucks would explode in the base, so they all stayed away. However, these self-destruction trucks ignored them at all. Instead, they piled up compactly in an open area according to Wang Ling's instructions, and then stopped making any movement. After arranging the Allied forces' self-destruction trucks, Wang Ling quickly mobilized his troops and personally led the team. He took 6 self-destruction trucks with him and rushed towards a nearby Yuri base. Agent Tanya was not idle either. She inspected the self-destruction trucks in the Allied base and nodded with satisfaction. However, she did not issue any orders to these self-destruction trucks. She just quickly ordered troops and led the team like Wang Ling. He ran towards another nearby Yuri base. Troops on both sides are preparing for a one-on-one fight. After General Luo saw this posture, he rubbed his big head and said with a bit of jealousy, "There are 2 of them, one of them is responsible for a Yuri base, and we have become like theatergoers." A deputy encouraged him jokingly, "General, isn't there a Yuri base? If you can't see it, you can send troops to attack it." As a result, General Luo glared at them at a glance, "Bah, you think we are also those 2 perverts? The Yuri base is heavily defended. With us, we can't break through them for a while. If we attack by force, we will only let our brothers die in vain." The other deputy clicked his tongue and shook his head, "So, General, if there is no diamond, we won't take the porcelain job. With these 2 perverts here, we don't have to take the credit." General Luo nodded, "Yes, that's what I think. But I'm just a little angry. Why can't Wang Ling, this bastard, be poached? Hey, forget it, they are all from the coalition camp anyway. That little bitch in the army is not an easy person. If I don't participate in the attack, I will take the opportunity to contain the Yuri base on the seaside, which can be regarded as doing them a favor." Wang Ling probably didn't expect that his actions with Agent Tanya would make General Luo jealous, but even if he knew, he didn't care. The coalition's offensive troops were generally marching at a relatively fast pace. Only the Apocalypse tanks slowed them down, and the self-destruction trucks were closely guarded behind the Apocalypse tanks. By the time the troops arrived at the target Yuri base, several hours had passed. The speed of the Allied forces is not much faster. The slowest heavy-armed soldiers are transported by multi-purpose infantry vehicles, but other Allied soldiers do not have this treatment, not to mention the light prism tanks that slow down their speed. It took a long time to get into position in front of the target base and deploy it by the way. After the two armies were deployed, not long after, the Allied superweapon chronospace teleportation was finally ready. The fun is coming. At this time, Wang Ling and Agent Tanya were happy. Even General Li Wiki, and even PoortoRich, General Bob and others who knew about the plan were paying attention to this place, and they were all looking forward to it for a while. Agent Tanya didn't keep them waiting for too long. She directly controlled the time and space teleportation remotely, shrouded the 9 self-destruction trucks densely packed together in the Allied base, and then chose the direction of teleportation to their target Yuri base. Internally, a transmission order was issued. Swish swish swish. As the teleportation command was issued, the time and space teleportation was also activated instantly, and the 9 self-destruction trucks moved to the interior of Yuri's base almost instantly. Buzz buzz. Buzz buzz. Here, we can also see the strength of the Yuri base's defense. 9 self-destruction trucks instantly settled on the base. However, mind control vehicles, mind control towers and psychic troops immediately started mind control. There were 6 self-destruction trucks on the spot. Be controlled. However, there are 9 self-destructing trucks here. As long as they are not controlled all at once, it will be ruined. The remaining 3 self-destruction trucks exploded without hesitation, and the other 6 controlled self-destruction trucks were also affected by the explosion, with a boom explosion. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 732. Boom. The explosions of the 3 self-destruction trucks led to the remaining 6 trucks exploding in an instant. This process took an extremely short time, and the explosion sound was as if 9 self-destruction trucks exploded at once. 9 self-destruction trucks. After the explosion, 9 pillars of fire rose into the sky instantly, and 9 huge mushroom clouds rose, as if 9 cruel gods were mocking the weak creatures in the world. With the appearance of these 9 pillars of fire and 9 mushroom clouds, an extremely large-scale destructive shockwave instantly spread inside the entire Yuri base, killing more than 200 infantrymen and dozens of tanks in an instant. A tragic scene of explosions and dozens of buildings collapsing. The entire base was enveloped by a large-scale green radiation layer. The remaining tanks were exposed to the radiation layer and were losing blood all the time. There were even dozens of survivors. The infantrymen who came down were eventually melted into a puddle of thick water because of the radiation layer. After a long time, this terrifying radiation layer gradually dissipated, and at this time, the originally mighty Yuri base had become dilapidated. Each of these self-destructing trucks is as powerful as a small nuclear bomb, but now 9 of them are added together and explode together. The power is even more terrifying than a simple nuclear bomb attack by the coalition forces. According to preliminary estimates, this huge explosion directly killed 60% or even 70% of the infantry in Yuri base. About 40% of the armored units exploded, and all the remaining tanks and vehicles were damaged to varying degrees. The damage to the buildings was also considerable. About half of the buildings in the entire base exploded in an instant, and many of the remaining buildings were on fire. This explosion, calculated intentionally or unintentionally, Yuri's base was really caught off guard. However, it's really no wonder that Yuri base's response was unfavorable. Yuri base also didn't expect that the coalition and allied forces would have such a skill. What's more, this new super weapon time and space teleportation appears on the battlefield for the first time. Not to mention that Yuri base does not know this type of technology. There are quite a number of people in the Allied forces who do not understand the specifics of this type of super weapon. The effect, which the player Wang Ling knew well, directly skipped those conventional operations, launched his ultimate move, and teleported 9 self-destructing trucks at once. Originally, self-destruction trucks were useless against Yuri base. It was impossible to break into Yuri base without being controlled by the mind control tower. However, this guy actually used time and space teleportation to transport them, and dispatched 9 of them at a time. Who can guard against this? Otherwise, Agent Tanya would have said that Wang Ling was immoral. This move was indeed too damaging. Ha 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 ha. After watching the scene on the electronic map, General Li Wiki laughed heartily after being shocked. Even Coach Rich in the general headquarters burst into laughter, and after laughing, he sighed again. This is Wang Ling's idea, right? Haha, how many more surprises can this guy give me? Unlike the coalition forces, General Bob couldn't laugh at all. Indeed, he was also shocked by the effect and power of this skill, but this plan was proposed by Wang Ling of the coalition forces. Now that the two armies are united, the stronger and more cunning Wang Ling becomes, the more advantageous it is indeed to them, and the more they can suppress the Seoul Empire. However, they and the coalition forces are old enemies after all. Now they have united under the pressure of the Seoul Empire. But if there is no such threat in the future, can the two armies still cooperate like this? When the time comes, the stronger Wang Ling becomes, the greater the threat to them will be, and all these evil ideas will be used against them. Oh, there's no other way. Let's take it one step at a time. At least for now, we still have a cooperative relationship. After struggling for a while, General Bob reluctantly looked away. In the coastal theater, after this huge explosion, the entire theater was boiling. All the officers and soldiers in the coalition and allied bases were shocked and inexplicably excited. Even Agent Tanya commented, "The effect is but it's unexpectedly good. Wang Ling, I really have you." However, as the bombed party, Yuri base's faces were pale and frightened, as if the end of the world was about to come. And now, after the explosion, is the storm over? No, it's just the beginning. After all, time and space teleportation is activated instantly, arrives instantly, and takes effect immediately. Wang Ling couldn't beat this speed. During this period of time, he simply didn't make any moves. He was always a spectator, watching everything sent to the Allies. The self-destruction truck exploded, which shocked me for a while before I gradually recovered. But it was his idea after all. Wang Ling just smiled indifferently and did not make any comments. Instead, he waved his hand and ordered the 6 self-destruction trucks from the coalition camp to drive to the front and pile them up tightly. Afterwards, Wang Ling directly took over the control of the Iron Curtain device from the electronic map, gestured for a while, and confirmed that all the self-destructing trucks were covered before finally releasing it. Ken. At the moment of release, a substantial layer of black curtain suddenly appeared around the 6 self-destruction trucks, and finally shrank and wrapped around the 6 self-destruction trucks. The Iron Curtain device coverage was completed. Within about 45 seconds, the 6 self-destruction trucks were in an absolutely invincible state and immune to any attack. Taking advantage of this time, 6 self-destruction trucks rushed into Yuri's base under Wang Ling's order. Immune to any attack, this naturally includes mind control. The 2 mind control towers at the intersection clearly detected the intrusion of the self-destructing truck, but were unable to control it. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. However, other troops did not believe in evil. The jet cannons on both sides opened fire urgently, trying to blow them up. Even the jet tanks and tornado tanks in the tank bunker, as well as the nearby Yuri recruits and wild orcs, all fired in order to counterattack, they bombarded these 6 self-destructing trucks without mercy. However, the Iron Curtain device is no joke. All attacks that fall on the self-destructing truck are blocked by that layer of black curtain, and cannot harm the self-destructing truck at all. Not only that, deep in Yuri's base, 6 magneto-electric tanks seem to be trying to absorb the self-destructing truck. However, after turning the huge dictionary device, they found that the magnetic waves could not affect the shady layer at all. Absolutely invincible and immune to attacks, these 2 words are not said in vain. Since they couldn't be attacked, these 6 self-destruction trucks acted unscrupulously. Under Wang Ling's order, 2 of them broke into the vicinity of the 6 magneto-electric tanks, 2 of them rolled directly into the infantry group, and 2 of them found a complex of biochemical reactor buildings. Burst. After the 6 self-destruction trucks were in place, Wang Ling also issued the order to self-destruct. Ever since. Boom. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 733. Boom. A base, 3 locations, and 6 trucks exploded together. In the blink of an eye, 6 pillars of fire appeared in the sky, and 6 mushroom clouds rose into the sky. At the same time, 3 super strong shock waves instantly spread out from 3 directions, blowing up all the magneto-electric tanks in the blink of an eye, killing hundreds of infantrymen, and destroying more than a dozen biochemical reactors. This was only Wang Ling's direct target. In fact, in addition to these targets, the explosion of 6 self-destructing trucks also implicated too many enemy units. Dozens of tanks and vehicles were damaged to varying degrees, and a wide range of buildings exploded or caught fire, and large radiation layers in 3 directions even intersected 2 by 2, almost covering the entire Yuri base. All tanks, vehicles, and infantry within this range were greatly affected, and from time to time there would be reports. There were explosions and screams. The scene was really frightening. According to preliminary estimates, the direct damage to Yuri's base due to this explosion is close to 40%. This really amused General Li Wiki, General Luo Er and Coach Rich who watched the video. The 40% loss was indeed not as good as the damage caused when the Allied forces chrono-teleportation self-destruct the truck, but after all, the coverage range of the Iron Curtain device was not as good as the former. Compared with this chrono-teleportation, it was 3 times less. A self-destructing truck, its power is naturally weakened. What's more, Wang Ling didn't plan to cause much damage to these 6 self-destructing trucks. He just wanted to try to blow up the more threatening units, such as those magneto-electric tanks. If he wasn't careful, he might suck one away. It's better to kill the armed helicopter in advance so you can feel more at ease. As for the other 4 vehicles, they are purely given as gifts, consuming a wave of guards and trying to see if they can blow up the power supply of Yuri's base. Although it is not as fast as time and space teleportation, this Iron Curtain device also has its advantages. The 45 seconds of invincibility can allow the self-destruction truck to shuttle through Yuri's base. It is like entering an uninhabited land and blowing up wherever you want. Explode wherever you want, very flexible. In this explosion, Wang Ling did blow up the magneto-electric tank he hated, and also consumed a lot of enemy infantry and buildings. However, Yuri's base stored too much electricity, and it was only 2 self-destructing trucks, but it failed to blow up. It would be a pity to cut off its power supply. Helicopter gunships, prepare to attack. But it didn't matter anymore. 6 self-destructing trucks had already destroyed the base. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Ling quickly commanded the troops and launched a fierce attack. At the same time, on the Allied side, Agent Tanya did not miss this opportunity to beat the drowned dog. She led the troops and launched a strong attack on the target Yuri base. The result can be imagined. When agents Wang Ling and Tanya lead an attack alone, it would be difficult to defend a Yuri base. What's more, it has been visited on a large scale by self-destructing trucks. Under this situation, the two Yuri bases could not stop these two wolf-like troops. After a burst of artillery fire, the two Yuri bases were swept and annihilated one after another. Ha ha ha, men and women are matched, so the work is not tiring. Seeing the result of the battle with his own eyes, General Lugo in the coalition base rubbed his big head and said happily, "No matter what I say, we don't need to do anything. These two perverted guys are enough to take care of Yuri's base." A deputy responded, "Yes, these two are really perverted. But before the attack, they used super weapons to transport and cover the self-destructing truck. This skill is really bad." After the battle between the two of them, the coastal theater also there is only one Yuri base left near the sea. Another deputy with sharp eyes looked at the electronic map and smiled, "I'm afraid there won't be another Yuri base left." Oh. General Lugo hurriedly looked at the electronic map, and sure enough he found that after agents Wang Ling and Tanya destroyed the Yuri base they were responsible for, they were not idle at all. They didn't even celebrate. They just threw their troops and turned around. "Move to this last Yuri base. Hee, it's okay now. Nothing will happen to us at all. The coastal theater is stable." Buzzing. Buzzing. On the front-line battlefield, agents Wang Ling and Tanya, as if they had discussed it in advance, were not satisfied with killing one Yuri base, so they unanimously pointed the finger at the last base. The large forces moved into action, forming a complete formation of Binhai. A beautiful scenery in the war zone. The two of them are really playing a big game this time. In one battle, they will pacify the entire coastal theater. Anyone else would be far less confident, but agents Wang Ling and Tanya are full of confidence. The Yuri base they are targeting will definitely not end well. The last Yuri base seemed to be aware of the terror of these two large forces. Even though it maintained a strong defense force, when it saw this posture, it looked frightened and faced a formidable enemy. It quickly mobilized all the troops in the base. The guards were divided into two places for strict defense. However, under the absolutely powerful combat power, these defenses are of little significance. Wang Ling and Tanya's targeted attacks can overwhelm Yuri's base by fighting alone, let alone now that they are fighting together from different directions. Attacked. The defense force of Yuri's base is very strong, but if you catch up with these two perverts, you can only consider yourself unlucky. After the troops of the two armies were in position, they launched a forceful attack according to the most reliable attack method, gradually disintegrating Yuri's guards in the corresponding direction. At this stage of the battle, seeing that the base had no way to recover and could not escape death, the commander of the Yuri base seemed to be driven into panic. He ordered the troops to switch from defense to offense and charge regardless of the cost. The entire base was quiet. There is a crazy feeling. Under such madness, the Allied forces did suffer a slight impact. Agent Tanya was injured and lost half of her health. Fortunately, as an elite heroic unit, these injuries are not a problem. After withstanding this round of impact, Yuri base was unable to continue. Wang Ling was even more relaxed. At that time, his combat power was far less than it is now. He encountered a crazy attack from the entire base outside Yuri's base on the top of the mountain in the Holy City war zone. He was blocked at that time, let alone now. Under the suppression of Wang Ling's powerful firepower and the bombardment of armed helicopters, all Yuri's guards who were attacking frantically were completely annihilated before they could even reach the front. Without this group of guards, the rest was easy. The base's defense buildings alone could not stop the troops of Wang Ling and Tanya's agents. As a result, under the attack of the two armies, the entire base quickly collapsed. The command post was directly blown up by Tanya's agents, and even the shipyard on the sea was remotely bombed by the Prism tank. After all Yuri's troops were wiped out, the attacking troops of the two armies cheered excitedly. They are used to winning similar battles, but this battle is the last battle in the Binhai theater. Killing the entire Yuri base will pacify the Binhai theater, which is of great significance. Happy cooperation. For this reason, even Agent Tanya found Wang Ling and smiled charmingly. Wang Ling was relatively calm. Just when he was about to respond, he suddenly heard a rapid alarm sound coming from the electronic map. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 734. Buzz. This alarm sounded so suddenly that Wang Ling was startled for a moment. It can be heard that this alarm does not come from a super weapon, but an alarm automatically sent from the electronic map when the base is attacked. Weren't they all wiped out? Why are there still wars? After calming down, Wang Ling was puzzled. He quickly checked the electronic map and found that it was the base of General Luo Er. The dock was being attacked by a large number of underwater troops. The entire dock had been knocked out of half of its health. General Luo Er was not slow to react, and quickly mobilized a large number of engineers to repair the dock. At the same time, he also ordered the giant squid and the coalition submarine to rush to the torpedo launch point from one side. After getting closer, he discovered that there were more than 10 remnants of the Yuri base. The Thunder submarine is making a sneak attack. In the game, there is a quick game mode. As long as the enemy buildings are destroyed, the game will be ended directly. The remaining troops will be defeated in an instant. However, in the world of Red Alert, this model is obviously not the case. All Yuri bases have been wiped out, but some troops still slip through the net. The troops on the ground are not bad. With the help of the Allied spy satellites, they can easily find the target and quickly eliminate it. However, the Navy, especially underwater targets such as the Thunder submarine, is very difficult. Unless the Thunder submarine shows up on its own initiative or is detected by the coalition and allied navies, it cannot be detected at all. Hiding in the water, it is like mines that could explode at any time. This group of thundering submarines seems to be the commander of the Yuri base on the seaside. Knowing the danger of the battle, he simply sent the thundering submarines to bypass the coalition navy and attack the dock. After the base was wiped out, this group of thundering submarines still remained, executing that order. Now that the coalition navy has detected the target, it is impossible to let it go. Several giant squids smashed them hard with their big heads, and the coalition submarines also hurriedly launched torpedoes to forcibly interfere with these thundering submarines. However, these Thunder submarines seemed to be crazy. They focused on executing the commander's last order and ignored the harassment of the coalition navy. The dense torpedoes bombarded the coalition shipyard continuously. After a while, they finally successfully exploded it. Then he began to change his target, bombarding the coalition's giant squid, killing all the targets in a matter of seconds, and then pointed the finger at the coalition submarine. General Luo Er was experienced in dealing with this group of thundering submarines. Unless the coalition submarines were suppressed by numbers, they would not be able to defeat them at all. So he simply used submarines to attract firepower, and then dispatched SEALs to rush into the sea and bomb them one after another. After all the Thunder submarines were dropped, the raid battle officially ended. Seeing this scene in the electronic video, Wang Ling frowned slightly. I thought the battle in the coastal theater was over, but I didn't expect that there would still be a local war. Agent Tanya was a little unimpressed. Tisk, the remaining Thunder submarines are just rootless ducks and cannot make much waves. Besides, after being blown up by the SEALs, there may not be any other Thunder submarines left. Wang Ling shook his head and said, not necessarily. Who knows how many submarines have been built in Yuri base? These thundering submarines are hiding in the water and can't be seen on electronic maps. They usually don't do anything, but what if they catch up? If things have to cross the sea, these remaining submarines may come out to cause trouble, not to mention these thundering submarines can launch missiles. If we suddenly launch an attack while we relax, it will be impossible to prevent it. For example, the sea area around this base there are thunder submarines. As he spoke, Wang Ling pointed to the nearby ocean and shook his fingers. Agent Tanya also realized the difficulty of this problem. She pondered for a moment, and then said directly to a seal, "Hey, go down and give it a try." "That's right, you're using an infantryman to probe your face." "This?" "Yes, sir." When Wang Ling heard this, he felt a little anxious. Just when he was about to interrupt, the designated SEAL responded directly and rushed to the designated sea area without hesitation. "Hey, just go if you are told." Wang Ling wanted to stop him, but the SEAL team didn't listen to him at all, and didn't even pay attention. After running for a long time, they broke into the place. A piece of sea area, and swim straight forward. Swish. Boom boom. Oh. As a result, the SEAL team had just swam very far when two torpedoes were suddenly fired from the water and hit him accurately. As two explosions were heard in succession, the SEAL team was also buried in the sea. Cut. Seeing this scene, Wang Ling was extremely dissatisfied. He gritted his teeth and scolded, "I told you that there might be danger here, but you still let him go explore. He is your subordinate. It's not okay to use him to explore the sea. Are you looking for death? Who are you yelling at?" But Agent Tanya was not happy anymore. "He is my subordinate, not yours. Do you see any hesitation in him when he works for me?" These words made the annoyed Wang Ling unable to answer for a while. Indeed, after listening to Wang Ling's words, the SEAL should have known that there might be danger here, but he still carried out the order without hesitation, without even hesitating. Although as a player, he is a unique existence in the entire world, Wang Ling now feels that he seems to be unable to understand the status of Agent Tanya among the officers and soldiers of the Allied forces. TCH. The armed helicopter, aim at the place where the torpedo was just launched, and give me a hard blast. Since he couldn't understand it, Wang Ling simply didn't think too much about it. However, since it had been detected that there were thunder submarines here, Wang Ling was not going to let them go so easily. Under his order, a platoon of armed helicopters quickly flew to the seaside, lined up in a row, and deployed. Dong 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 dong. Boom boom boom. Wow. After the cannons were in place, a row of armed helicopters immediately fired into the sea where torpedoes had just appeared. Dozens of cannon rounds fell, causing huge waves. Being bombarded by a cannon with this kind of momentum, I am afraid that even an ultra-high armor like the Apocalypse tank will only be killed instantly, let alone the Thunder submarine. When the waves dissipated, the Thunder submarine originally hidden in the sea was also killed. Forcibly exposed to the sea, it seemed that the hull was blasted, water quickly entered, and the entire submarine sank quickly. This sinking is different from the previous dives. The submarine was damaged and now it will never have a chance to surface again. In fact, the Thunder submarine killed the SEALs not long ago. If it immediately moved its position after revealing its position, the dozens of armed helicopters would have no way to deal with it and would not be able to lock on the target. But who would have expected that the submarine could be so calm and refuse to move, so it deserves to be taken care of by these dozens of cannons.